Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. I'm Raphaël Bloch, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Big Whale, Web3 Media, and I will be the host of this panel for a very nice subject, which is Bitcoin and financial institutions, love or hate. It's a big question. If we just look back even only 1 or 2 years back, and maybe only months, we can think that it's only a matter of love, because we saw that BlackRock and a lot of banks start to allow their customers to sell and buy cryptos, and especially Bitcoin. But maybe it's not so easy, and I would like to discuss with you this subject. And we have 3 panelists, but there are only 2, but I think that Karim from KPMG Canada will come. But so we have, and I'm very glad to have with me Claire Balva. Claire,
hi.
Yeah, you are the head of crypto and blockchain of KPMG France. And Jean-Marc Stenger, you are the CEO of Forge, which is the digital asset subsidiary of Societe Generale. So thank you very much for being here. And I would like to start with you, Claire. What do you think? Can we say that it's only a matter of love in 2022 between Bitcoin and financial institutions?
No, not at all, because of course it's better now than 5 years ago. But still, I don't see many institutions, at least in France, welcoming Bitcoin. They welcome I don't know, maybe tokens or blockchain or NFTs or stablecoin, but still Bitcoin is a very difficult topic to address for institutions because it's a political topic. It seems dangerous, it seems volatile, it seems speculative. So institutions have a very hard time addressing Bitcoin, and they see it as a rather negative topic or as a risky subject.
Okay, and so can we say that it's only a matter of fear or only a matter of political decisions? How you explain the fact that even 10 years after its creation, Bitcoin is still seen as something like maybe evil?
Well, 10 years is a very short amount of time, because Bitcoin implies that money can be separated from the state, so it has huge consequences for institutions, for companies, for public powers, etc. So I don't think it's weird that 10 years after Bitcoin creation, we still see a lot of fear from institutions. What I see is, institutions usually don't have a very clear point of view about Bitcoin. Usually you have, I don't know, some passionate people who think Bitcoin is great and that their company should, I don't know, maybe develop applications or accept Bitcoin as a means of payment. But those people are still a minority within the institutions, and there are a lot of different point of views. Some people think that Bitcoin is a disaster and should not be addressed by the companies. Some don't know about it. So there are a lot of fights, I would say, even within institutions about it.
And at KPMG France, so you're working with banks and other financial institutions. Did you see switch, even a little switch, especially on Bitcoin and not on crypto?
There are more and more people understanding Bitcoin. Well, since we are the crypto team, of course, our contacts at banks usually know about Bitcoin, but I see more and more people working there who understand it and who think it's interesting. But I don't think the political standpoint and the press releases are more optimistic now than 5 years ago about Bitcoin.
Okay. And Jean-Marc, so you're working in one of the biggest French banks and even in Europe. Can you explain us how you managed to launch Forge and also how you see Bitcoin? Whereas I think that you are more working on crypto and security tokens right now.
Yes, sure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me on the panel. I think first on the subject, obviously there is no emotion on our side when it comes to crypto assets. I mean, we are very pragmatic and very business-driven. Maybe to answer your question and to put some context as well, so Societe Generale Forge is indeed a fully integrated subsidiary of Societe Generale, dedicated to digital assets and crypto and services we are offering and we are intending to offer to clients in the field of crypto assets, generally speaking. The positioning we have within the bank make that we belong to the capital market activities, basically serving institutional clients, so corporate, financial institutions, asset managers, when it comes to their needs in terms of financial transactions, and which is the area where we have seen already 4 or 5 years ago the most interesting use cases and the highest potential for crypto assets to basically penetrate the field of activities we are running within Societe Generale and the banking industry, generally speaking. That to say that the activities we develop currently at SG Forge are not within the field of what we do for retail payments, notably, where probably the subject will be addressed a bit differently. What we do at Societe Generale Forge is basically threefold. We help our clients basically to create financial instruments in the form of tokens, native token deployed on public blockchain infrastructure, number one. Number two, we help them then to exchange, buy, sell, and trade those securities on a new market infrastructure, which is those blockchain network. And number three, we offer them solutions to custody basically these securities under the same let's say constraints, characteristics as we do for traditional security. So to come back to your question, bringing this subject and crypto within the bank in the scope of activity, which are traditional activities the bank is performing for 150 years when it comes to Societe Generale, was probably the good way to do it, the way where the path for adoption, even if not obvious, obviously, was the easiest, and where we, I think, are able to extract value for our clients and the bank first, before probably going to other use cases where probably more like crypto-native securities like Bitcoin would be involved. Yes.
But right now, yeah, it's maybe on your roadmap or something like this, but...
Well, as said, we are very much driven by client demand and use cases. And again, we need to put that in context. When you look at volumes of activities, number of transactions, a bank, a universal bank like Societe Generale, who has a different scope of activities, is involved with. Even if we already see today in the crypto industry volumes which are decent, everyday amounts which are traded on crypto exchanges are large. If we compare that to the volume of activities we are dealing for traditional banking activities, it remains small. For a bank like Societe Generale, we are a market leader in derivative market, in capital market activities worldwide. Amount at stake are much, much larger, and I would say the strategic interest for the bank to develop its activities and to position itself as a leader in the crypto industry for its traditional financial market activities today are more important and are to be prioritized compared to other activities we see, notably in the field of payments or, let's say, investment solutions for retail market.
Okay, and talking about clients' demand, so you don't have clients and even institutional clients that are asking for Bitcoin or?
Yes, we do, obviously, and just on a personal note, before creating SG Forge, I was running investment activities at SocGen, notably in the field of alternative investments, hedge fund strategies, and already 6 or 7 years ago, had client demands either from family offices, high net worth individuals, but also hedge funds, large hedge funds, coming to our teams, asking us to deploy investment strategies based on crypto assets and notably Bitcoin. Later on, we obviously also saw client demand emerging from the retail market, but again, not to a scale, and also not within a regulatory environment which allowed us so far to deploy those activities at an industrial scale, which was, let's say, more strategic than what we are currently doing, I think, in the capital market space.
Okay, I hope that Karim will arrive because KPMG Canada had invested in Bitcoin and also in Ethereum, I think. Claire, you're working for KPMG France. How you explain that KPMG Canada was able to invest and not KPMG France, or maybe you have this plan?
Well, the thing is, KPMG Canada made this decision to invest because obviously they needed to test it and to buy Bitcoin and Ether. The thing is, at Blockchain Partner, which was an independent company, we already owned Bitcoin and Ether for a while because we need those cryptocurrencies to test and learn to show applications to our clients. So of course, when we came to KPMG France, well, we still own those currencies, and we trained the financial department of KPMG France, and we do have cryptocurrencies. We did not release any press release for that because we did not see it as an investment. We did not invest large amounts in crypto, but we do have small amounts to, I don't know, show Lightning Network or show Bitcoin wallets to our clients or to show DeFi applications with Ether. But it is quite difficult within a large company to manage crypto assets. For example, when we were independent at Blockchain Partner, it was quite basic. We had a ledger, we had an account at an exchange platform, and basically I bought the cryptocurrencies, I pressed 2 buttons and it was done. When you are within a large company, there are a lot of actors involved, and you need to train everyone, and they need to do like accounting operations that are much more complex than when you are a very small company. But of course, when you have a consultancy team specialized in crypto, obviously you need to have crypto assets to test and learn and understand what you are advising your clients.
Yeah.
So I think we're not the only ones, of course, but if you see a consultancy team that never bought crypto as a company, don't work with them.
Okay, and we mentioned BlackRock, and also we know that other American banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and others are working on Bitcoin. How you explain that we only see North American company, so KPMG Canada, and also American banks in the list of, Bitcoin providers, whereas in Europe, I can maybe only mention 1 or 2 institutional.
Well, it can be a matter of culture, because in the US they are less risk averse than in Europe. So You can see it in crypto, but in other technologies as well. So it can be one reason. Second reason would be they maybe have more funds and they invest more in new activities. But I think the most compelling argument is that in Europe, the regulators are quite negative in their communications about crypto and especially Bitcoin. So it is difficult when you're a bank or any companies to convince, I don't know if you work there, it's hard to convince your boss that you should develop a service on Bitcoin if the Bank of France is rather negative on Bitcoin. In the US, I see the communications a bit more positive than in Europe. But maybe Jean-Marc has a different opinion.
Well, I think we need to differentiate a bit and to be precise in what we are talking about, and also come back again and again to the basic use cases. First, in the landscape you mentioned, Raphael, there are, I think, banks on one side and asset managers on the other side. And the picture is not at all the same. When you concentrate on banks and activities which are commercial activities, not prop trading activities, commercial activities which are performed by banks, I think the competitive landscape is actually more favorable to European banks than it is in the US. Because as a matter of fact, the SEC is much more stringent when it comes to crypto assets than the European regulators, and definitely the ACPR and the AMF we have in France. And I think it's fair to recognize that the regulatory environment in France has been very innovative, very early in that field, and much more advanced than what we have seen probably anywhere else in the world, creating an environment for banks to develop activities in the field for their clients, which position them in a pretty decent position. When we have a look on concrete market operations, not just press releases, but operation which went on the market involving banks, actually we are very well positioned, including in front of very large US players like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, which are probably the US banks which are the most advanced in the field today. Again, if we compare what we are doing, I think we don't have to be shy and very competitive. That's for creating the commercial services and the banking infrastructure needed to develop crypto activities. Then when we move to asset manager, I think the situation is probably a bit different, and here indeed probably reversed compared to banks. The situation is that it's true in terms of culture, but also risk appetite and environment. The US players, and notably the alternative investment players, like the big hedge funds, have been more, let's say, active on these assets than the European ones. So in channeling investments, institutional investments, or in some cases retail investments through ETFs or other investment products which are indexed or exposed to crypto assets, it's fair to say that the US market has been more advanced, and I think that's also a bit what emerged from the previous panel when it comes to VC investments. Things are moving fast, and I think we can be pretty optimistic also on the field to see this convergence happening.
Okay, so you think that in the next years it will only be a matter of between hate or love, more love than...
Well, I think if we look in front of us for what is ahead in the next, let's say, 5 to 7 years, and if we dig more specifically on Bitcoin, which is the subject today, to me there are, like potentially a kind of bifurcation, because Bitcoin is in the crypto space, as everyone knows here, very specific asset, very specific topic, in the sense that it's not programmable, and also the governance of the chain is obviously much different from probably any other blockchain we are seeing, at least the programmatic one, which will create a kind of bifurcation in the use cases deployed on those blockchain, and hence in the probably the pace of adoption. If you put that in context with also all the work which is being done by central banks, and since the Libra episode, we know that all central banks and definitely the ECB are working hard in creating also digital version of their currencies, so-called CBDCs. If we see those CBDC emerging in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, it will probably have some very strong implication on the appetite investors, either institutional or retail, will have for those assets, and the way they will use them as a mean of payment, as a reserve of value, or as securities, in the way they could offer a better way to get exposure to basically the balance sheet of a company. Is it on the equity side or the debt side, and the way it could facilitate the channeling of the investments to companies.
Claire, you have a special point of view on the next 5 or 7 years?
No, I think adoption will continue its way and will go through. I agree with Jean-Marc. Actually, the difference is quite reversed in asset management companies. We see a lot of asset managers in France being disappointed that they cannot offer crypto services, mostly because of regulatory issues. But I think those issues will be tackled by the regulators, because today many people who want to invest in crypto, or many companies who want to invest in crypto, cannot do it through traditional asset managers in Europe and have to go through alternative asset managers in other countries that are that have better tax conditions, for example. But we will see more and more services for crypto investment, and especially Bitcoin investment.
Maybe to react on that, I think, again, the basic question is, why do investors invest in Bitcoin? And in turn, the answer to this question will drive the adoption with asset managers, and will drive how probably traditional bank will open gateways for mass retail market to access these assets. Because to be clear, from a technical or let's say internal system point of view, it's not so much an issue. It's everything lies in why should we do that, and why are the reasons for investors, and again notably retail investors, in doing so. If I look, or if I speak to people in the US, notably large investors, crypto funds or traditional hedge funds, which are today channeling the mass of the volumes in these assets, to be honest, it's only speculative reasons. And remembering the activities we had a few years ago, same people were investing in any future contracts exposed on anything. Remember nice stories about futures on orange juice contract. It was pretty much the same. So if you take this approach, the answer and again the gateway would probably be very different compared to a situation where you have an asset which can be used as a mean of payment, for instance.
But I don't understand, because people who want to invest in any asset do it for speculative issues, right? So it's not specific to Bitcoin for me. When they invest in corporate stocks, they do it also for speculative reasons.
I'm a banker by training, so in our world, the clear difference we are making in between speculative reason and investment reason. You may say it's vocabulary, but it's basically the investment horizon and the rationale for which you do invest. If it's short-term trading and, for instance, high-frequency trading where you goal, which is not, I mean, to be criticized in itself. It's everyone has his reason to invest, but it's to extract short-term value by high-frequency trading on an asset just because you want to access an asset which is highly volatile, and what you're actually trading is the volatility of the underlying asset. It's not the asset for what it means in itself. I put that in speculative. If you invest in that because you think there is, an embedded value, a long-term value, which is also an investment case, we can defend for Bitcoin, by the way, no judgment there, but it's just another way of channeling the investments. It's another way of structuring the way you invest in that. And again, my point was to say that depending how we see the market demand coming, from a banking perspective, opening those access, and that's just what I'm saying, will not be the same depending on these reasons.
And you see more client demand for what you call speculative, so short-term horizon in Bitcoin than long-term?
For the time being, I would say it's still a question mark. I think we all probably have a personal feeling on that. It's a personal feeling, but just the fact that it's a question mark and it's not clear, to a certain extent, I would say prevent us from moving in one direction to another. Again, when you are in a large bank like Societe Generale, we can only do things at scale. We do not know how to do small things. It's just like this. Societe Generale, it's 140,000 people in the world. We are serving 25 million customers. We can't do small things at small scale. So we need to have a very clear prerequisite, a stable and mature regulatory environment, which I think it's pretty much the case in Europe. We are nearly there, number one, and we haven't had that for the last 5 years. Now we have it. And maybe number two, very strong business case with also visibility on the flows from the clients. We have it, I think, on the institutional side, and when I'm saying institutional for SocGen, it means corporate or traditional asset managers. You named BlackRock, Raphael, that's clients we are talking to. We also have very large asset managers in Europe which are working on the field. I'm sure same people you are talking to, Claire. They also still have questions. I think once these questions will be addressed, and it's progressing clearly, we'll also have the ability to serve this client. And I mean, be reassured, Societe Generale, we are a commercial bank. We are also here to develop business and serve clients at the end. If there is client demand within a clear regulatory environment, for sure, it will be a business we'll be happy to size and to position ourselves on the field.
And Jean-Marc, you outlined something very interesting. We know that Bitcoin is something like a special asset or whatever we call it. And maybe this is why banks are, regarding him differently from the other assets, because you know that lots of people behind Bitcoin core development and so on want to replace banks. So maybe it's one of the elements.
Yeah, sure. I think it's fair to recognize it. You were also mentioning in the beginning of the talk, banks, we were evil for Bitcoiners for a while, and it's, I think, fair to say that the discussion was difficult for a long time when it comes to Bitcoin, because there is an embedded proposal which was to disintermediate the financial industry, and I think it's good to a certain extent, and it's removing some of the friction, inefficiencies we all suffer as clients of banks is something we can't be against, but it's sure discussion was difficult for a long time. There is maybe still a little bit of that, but again, the regulatory clarity which is brought in the field by regulators and central banks help also to to make these discussions easier, and again, I'm very, very confident that at the end of the day, if there is a value proposal for clients and again, an environment which is favorable to develop the business, which is the case in France, which is very pro-crypto, I must admit it, services will be available for clients in this asset.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we can start the Q&A session if you want to. If you have the mic. Ouais. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ça marche?
Yes.
Oui. Yes, a little bit of disheveled perspective.
Louder, if you can, yeah.
Yes, a little bit of disheveled perspective. What about banks, traditional banks, I mean, investing in mining in the future? And what's the state of the art today? Short question, hoping a long answer.
In France, I haven't seen any bank invest in mining for the moment. But obviously, if Bitcoin becomes like a monetary standard in the future, it would be very logical to see financial institutions invest in mining. And of course banks, but also even central banks, why not? So it clearly is a possibility, but for the moment it's far away, to be clear.
Ouais, alors at Societe Generale, for performing the financial market transactions I was referring to for different reasons, but first and foremost for ensuring that we know at any point in time the latest status of the network. We do run nodes on Ethereum and Tezos, and we also own those cryptocurrencies for, again, performing those commercial activities. So again, it illustrates that there is no in principle issues in doing that. No, I think your question probably refers more to mining as an industry and as a source of return in itself for Bitcoin one, and maybe also we can have in mind the potential evolution we'll see on Ethereum with the merge in a few weeks' time. I think that's a different question. To me, it's more a question for utility companies, like the big utility players, or for financial market infrastructure players, rather than for banks. I tend to see banks more as basically users of the network, paying on the transaction, rather than participating themselves into the maintenance or the security of the network in itself. And one of the reasons for that, just from a financial point of view perspective, thinking at the corporate balance sheet of banks and investors in banks' equity, for instance, I think other type of companies are probably more suitable for running these businesses.
Thank you very much. Yeah, here.
Thank you. I have a question about loans. So when do you think, if ever, bank will accept to provide credit loans based on crypto? Like when will they recognize crypto assets as a collateral or security asset in order to back potential loan, like they do for real estate, for example?
Here also no in principle issue. At Societe Generale, we are actually already involved in some refinancing transactions, including crypto. We notably get a 20 million euro credit line with MakerDAO to basically refinance some of the security tokens we have been issuing in the past against DAI. So that's already transactions we are engaged with, not at an industrial scale. We are still setting up the, let's say, the financial structure we need to operate these transactions. Because, as you can imagine, dealing with DAO is not completely straightforward when you operate in a regulated environment. At the end of the day, you need to have some form of contracts. But I tend to see those solutions and those opportunities which are brought by the crypto industry as a great way to improve the financial terms we bring to clients, but also to bring a lot of operational efficiency in the way we operate these transactions. So again, provided we have the framework in place, I mean, things are being handled, and I know there are other projects with other banks which go in the same direction.
Claire, maybe you you are working with...
I agree with Jean-Marc.
Thank you very much. Another question? Wow. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing this very interesting topic. Counseling-wise, how would you advise any crypto company wishing to get a PSAN regulation in France? Comment est-ce que vous conseillerez quelqu'un pour obtenir la PSAN en France?
You mean any new company or any foreign company coming to France?
Both works.
Both? To have a bank account, or
No, just in gaining the PSAN with
yes,
yeah, with the bank account helping, like given your expertise.
yes. Well, it's rather classic because now you have maybe 20 or 30 companies who manage to have the PSAN. So basically, you have to go through the process, hire lawyers who are experimented in getting the PSAN, and it usually takes a few months, maybe 3 to 6 months. So you have to anticipate a bit, and will probably cost you, I don't know, maybe 50,000 euros. And you will have to implement some processes within your organization to be compliant.
Thank you.
Next one, yeah, just.
So, hello everyone. It's more a question for Jean-Marc, I say. I'd like to know.
Yeah,
if
louder.
Okay, sorry. I'd like to know if at Societe you are already working on structured products regarding tokens, DeFi, loans.
Well, actually, structured products are actually on top of our priority. As you know, we are a worldwide leader in the structured product space, and we already do offer to some of our professional clients the ability to basically purchase structured product in the form of security tokens deployed on Tezos. And that's already live commercial activities we have with these clients for probably 4 to 6 months now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, two other questions, and yeah, we'll be fine.
Hello. Do you think that stable coins are enemies to central banks, and do you think that they are a kind of liquidity leaks, and do you think that they will do something to block it, or you know what I mean?
Interesting question. I would say they can be a threat because they create a new competition within monies. So if you're, for example, if you're European, you can buy dollars easily, more easily. So they can be a threat to central banks and to monetary zones. But I think they could also be a huge opportunity for central banks. We talk a lot about CBDCs, but what could be done, for example, is for a central bank to issue a stablecoin or to regulate different actors who would manage the stablecoins for them, and it would help maintain the competitivity of their money. So they would allow, for example, the euro to continue to exist, even if now you see a lot of cryptocurrencies that are, technologically speaking, more competitive than fiat monies.
Maybe just to complement quickly, because it's a subject we can talk for hours. I think obviously what happened with Terra Luna during the summer has dramatically increased the pace at which regulators and central banks are addressing the subject. To make it short, I think tomorrow we are heading to a world where we'll see a coexistence of central bank money in the form of CBDC and stablecoins. Just as today, in the financial system, we see central money existing together with commercial money, issued by commercial bank. And I think the financial system, but also central banks, need this dual system, just for the fact that I can hardly imagine a world where tomorrow any retail client will have an account directly with the ECB and them handling directly all payments and all account opening and KYC, AML questions.
Okay, so it's not a matter of love or hate, it's neutral maybe? Yeah.
It's neutral, it's just that it's very complex and systemic questions. Because again, even if today the crypto industry has reached market caps which are decent, bringing that to the next level requires more robust setup and infrastructure, which are being built. But if you look in the detail, what lies in the MiCA and pilot regime regulations, which are just about to come in Europe, you already have pretty much all the provision you need to have large stable coins being handled in Europe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the last question, please. Yeah, maybe at the back. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
What do European banks and financial institutions think about Bitcoin's energy consumption?
About Bitcoin?
Energy consumption.
Ah.
Oui, ESG is clearly a question and an issue for Bitcoin adoption. And I think that's also probably why Ethereum is right in moving in proof of stake. You see all the developments, the political developments, the regulatory developments in the area. I think it's clearly a question for mass adoption and a difficulty the Bitcoin network will face tomorrow, clearly.
So Claire, Jean-Marc, thank you so much, and I hope you appreciate it.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.